The story begins with an Australian girl named Claire, a traveler and professional photographer, who arrives in Berlin to explore the city. While wandering around, she comes across a library, steps inside, and buys a few sketchbooks. As she's about to cross the street, she accidentally bumps into a guy named Andy. He helps her get back on her feet, and she's relieved to find out that Andy speaks English, a rare comfort in Berlin, where most people speak German. They start talking, and a connection begins to form between them. Claire and Andy spend the day exploring Berlin together. Andy shares that he's an English teacher, while Claire mentions she's a photographer visiting for work. They enjoy each other's company immensely, and by evening, Andy accompanies Claire back to her hotel. There's undeniable attraction between them, and as Andy gently touches Claire's hair, she finds herself drawn to him even more. Later that evening, Claire returns to her hotel room, looking through the photos she captured throughout the day, including a few of Andy. She finds herself wanting to see him again, yet realizes she has neither his address nor phone number. The next day, she revisits the spot where they first met, and, as luck would have it, Andy is there. Andy quickly senses Claire's interest in him, and they spend another wonderful day together. This time, Andy invites Claire to his house, located in a secluded area far from the city. Claire doesn't mind the remoteness, as she's grown fond of him. Once inside, they share an intimate moment, deepening their connection. The next morning, Claire wakes up to find that Andy is not at home. He's already left for school, where he teaches English to children. As she gets ready and heads to the door, she realizes that it's locked. Andy has taken the keys with him, locking her inside. She notices another locked room in the house, but doesn't give it much thought, assuming he simply forgot to leave her a key. Claire spends the entire day indoors, waiting for him to return. That evening, when Andy comes back, Claire mentions that he might have forgotten to leave the keys. Andy casually replies with a yes. Claire jokes, saying, "I thought maybe you'd locked me up here on purpose." But Andy doesn't respond to her comment, leaving her with an unsettling feeling. Later, they become intimate again and fall asleep. The following morning, as Andy is preparing to leave for school, Claire asks where the keys are. Andy says they're on the table, pointing to a single key before heading out. Claire drifts back to sleep, but wakes up a bit later to find a photo of herself on the table. Written across her shoulder in the photo are the words "mine." A chill runs down her spine, and she starts to feel uneasy about the situation. Claire quickly gets ready and grabs the key on the table, hurrying to the door, only to find it doesn't work. She realizes Andy purposely left her the wrong key. Feeling trapped, she charges her phone, only to discover that the SIM card has been removed. Andy took it. Panic sets in as Claire understands that Andy may not be the kind person she thought. In desperation, she tries to break the glass window with a chair. The first pane shatters, but behind it is a second reinforced layer, much stronger. It dawns on her that Andy has meticulously planned to trap her here. When Andy returns that evening, Claire pleads to leave, but he locks the door behind him and walks in. Seeing the shattered glass and disarray, he realizes Claire has figured out his intentions. Claire confronts Andy, demanding to know why he's doing all this and why he won't let her go. Andy calmly replies, "You told me you wanted us to be together forever." Claire recalls saying that to him earlier, but realizes now that Andy took it too literally. She starts to understand that Andy is not mentally stable. She yells at him, even strikes him in desperation, but Andy is unmoved and remains adamant about keeping her there. The next morning, before leaving for school, Andy ties Claire up to prevent any escape attempts. Later, he visits his father, proudly mentioning his new girlfriend, Claire. This isn't the first time Andy's had a girlfriend. He had another one who mysteriously vanished, with no clues about her whereabouts. When Andy returns home that evening, Claire is in terrible shape, weak from hunger and thirst after a full day without food or water. Andy casually mentions, "I messaged your mom, letting her know you're fine. She won't worry about you." Another uneasy night passes, and the next morning, as Andy prepares to leave for school again, he starts to bind Claire. This time, she pleads, "Don't tie me up. The house is locked anyway. I can't escape." Andy hesitates but agrees, trusting her words, and leaves for school. After Andy leaves, Claire frantically searches for an escape route but finds none. Under the sofa, she discovers a screwdriver, which she quickly hides. Later that evening, when Andy returns, he finds Claire seemingly engrossed in a puzzle he brought her the day before. Claire acts as if she's happy and asks Andy to help her solve the puzzle. As he leans in to assist, she seizes the moment and stabs him in the hand with the screwdriver, injuring him. Seizing the keys, she bolts for the door and makes it downstairs, only to find another locked door blocking her escape. Andy, furious and wounded, catches up to her and brutally assaults her until she falls unconscious. After Andy brings Claire back upstairs, he continues taking eerie photos of her, revealing his disturbed state of mind. The next day, Andy goes to school and behaves strangely, staring intently at one of his students, suggesting she may be his next target. Meanwhile, at home, Claire keeps trying to unlock the door, but each attempt fails. When Andy returns, Claire has become completely subdued, realizing any attempt to escape could cost her life. Days pass, and one day, the same student Andy had been eyeing at school comes by his house. Andy quickly tells her to leave, and although Claire catches sight of the girl, she remains silent. She knows that if she tries to communicate, Andy might imprison the girl as well, or worse. So, Claire watches her leave, keeping her silence. Months pass for Claire in this confined space, her hope slowly fading. Andy, becoming more controlling, even cuts her hair. There's a locked room in the house that Andy frequently visits, always securing it afterward. Claire once found strands of hair in the bathtub, but she couldn't make sense of their origin. As winter arrives, Andy leaves her alone in the house without electricity, and Claire suffers through the freezing cold. After several days, Andy returns, visibly shaken. His father has died. Claire, who has long given up on escape, instinctively embraces him, feeling that this trapped existence with Andy is now her reality. After this, Claire starts acting normally around Andy, trying to earn his trust. To her surprise, Andy brings home a dog for her, providing her with some companionship. She feels a slight relief, having at least one friend in her isolated world. One day, Andy takes Claire, locked in the car trunk, to a remote area. His intentions become clear. He plans to kill her and bury her there. Claire, realizing the horrifying reality, closes her eyes, accepting her fate. But suddenly, a young boy and his mother appear nearby. The mother is injured, and they seem in need of help. When Andy approaches the boy's injured mother, Claire seizes the moment and tries to communicate with the boy, desperate to reveal her situation. However, the boy only understands German, so he doesn't grasp her plea and quickly moves away, confused and scared. Andy, realizing the situation, decides not to kill Claire for now and takes her back home. The next day, when Andy leaves for school, Claire sneaks into the mysterious locked room he always keeps hidden. Inside, she is horrified to find countless photos of herself, many taken without her knowledge. The walls are covered with intimate, disturbing images, revealing the extent of Andy's obsession. Claire finds photos of other girls, realizing with horror that Andy has likely trapped and killed multiple victims before her. She understands that he intends to do the same to her. Suddenly, she spots a flashlight beam outside. Approaching the window, she sees a man checking the house. Spotting Claire, the man understands her silent plea for help and tries to enter through the door. But just then, Andy appears, intercepts the man, and kills him before he can rescue Claire. Claire's hopes shatter as she witnesses Andy's ruthless nature, and she realizes she is once again trapped with no immediate escape. Screaming desperately, but Andy coldly burns the man's body to erase any evidence. A few days later, Andy brings home his students' notebooks for grading. Claire notices and formulates a plan. She'll secretly place a photo of herself in the notebook belonging to the girl who had once visited, hoping it will alert someone to her captivity. However, slipping her photo into the notebook won't be easy, as Andy remains seated right next to them. Claire must find a way to execute her plan without drawing Andy's attention, knowing this might be her only chance for someone to discover her and save her. As Andy reads the newspaper, he spots an article about Claire's disappearance, realizing the risk of keeping her grows every day. He tells Claire to pack her things, making her suspect he plans either to kill her or move her to a new location. Thinking quickly, she goes to the gas burner and deliberately burns her hand, forcing Andy to rush to get some ointment from another room. In this brief moment, Claire slips a photo of herself into the notebook belonging to the girl Andy had shown interest in, the photo revealing Claire tied up and tortured. She hopes it will be enough to alert someone about her situation. The next day, Andy returns to his school and hands out notebooks to his students. When his targeted student opens her notebook, she discovers a photo of Claire, bound and helpless, taken by Andy himself. She recalls having seen Claire at Andy's house and realizes the horrifying truth that Andy has been holding Claire captive. Panicked, she flees the classroom, but in her haste, the photo slips from her notebook, landing where another student picks it up and hands it directly to Andy. Realizing his secret is exposed and knowing that the student must have gone to his home to help Claire, Andy rushes back to his house. At the house, Andy grabs a rod, determined to kill both Claire and the student. As he enters, he notices the front door slightly ajar. Just then, he hears a noise from upstairs and assumes they're hiding there. He begins climbing the stairs, but in a calculated move, Claire calls out to him from downstairs. Andy immediately turns back, now focused on finding and silencing her. As Andy re-enters the room, Claire quickly slams the door behind him and locks it. Now, Andy is trapped inside the same house where he had kept her captive for so long. Claire, breathless and filled with emotion, breaks down in tears just outside. Soon, the student who had been hiding upstairs joins her, and together they leave the house. In the final scene, we see Claire walking freely through the streets of Berlin, feeling the fresh air and freedom she had been denied for months. Andy remains imprisoned in the same house where he once held her captive, forced to face the consequences of his actions alone. And with that, our story comes to an end. We hope you enjoyed this gripping tale of survival and resilience. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. If you were in Claire's shoes, would you have handled it the same way?